tributes continue to pour in from all corners following the passing of boxing icon and former world boxing champion Dingaan Thobela. Thobela passed away at the age of 57 after a short illness, and since the news broke, prominent figures in boxing and all walks of life have expressed their condolences, noting Thobela's role in enhancing the image of boxing in South Africa and his mentorship to younger athletes. Now, as the nation reflects on his life and contributions, it is clear that Dingaan Thobela was more than just a boxer. He was a symbol of hope and resilience for many, embodying the spirit of the sport and the heart of a champion. Now, to speak more on the life and legacy of Dingaan Thobela, we are joined by boxing promoter and friend Andile Sidinile. Thank you so much for joining us, Andile. Perhaps not under the circumstances that you would have wanted, because a great has indeed fallen.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, and good morning to your viewers.
Now, take us through perhaps your reaction to the news of Dingaan Thobela's passing and where you were when you got the news.
Well, currently I'm talking to you. I'm in Port Alfred in the Eastern Cape, and last night I got a call from a mutual friend with Dingaan, Mr. Bongani Makasela, who was crying hysterically, and I was confused. Why was he crying? And after about 45 seconds to a minute of our call, then he broke the sad news to me.
And of course, this is somebody that you've known for over 3 decades, having met, Dingaan Thobela back in the 90s. And take us through the relationship that you've shared then throughout, and what you think his legacy is going to be as we reflect on his life.
Well, I met Dingaan in the late 90s, and I met him through Welcome Ncita, because Welcome Ncita and I were starting a boxing business at the time. So Dingaan wanted to join us. So we worked on a development program in boxing. We conceptualized what is today known as baby champs. Worked on that flat out. And outside boxing, he always wanted to extend his business to the Eastern Cape. You would recall that he had what is called the Rose Funerals. So his vision was to franchise that and take it to the Eastern Cape. But most importantly, he had passion for developing young boys to be boxing. And you would recall at the time, both he and Welcome were at the tail end of their boxing career. So I guess they were preparing for exit to prepare for life after boxing.
And of course, I'm sure you would have seen some of the reaction coming through from the fraternity. And it does suggest that he had an impact way beyond the boxing ring. It wasn't just about him being a boxer, but the impact and influence he had on youngsters. You've seen that firsthand, and how passionate he was about developing the young group and the next generation of upcoming boxers as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. People who used to watch boxing then would know that a lot of boxers would wear a boxing gear, excuse me, with rose funerals. Those who would wear red and white boxing gear. He used to sponsor boxers, and particularly boxers that were training under his former trainer, Ubra Nomen Shabane. He used to sponsor all of them, give them transport money, give them diet, and also sponsor advices, not necessarily in monetary terms. He used to make sure that when he visits Welcome and I in East London, he would go to the boxing gyms, talk to the young guys. And when he hit a snag to become a promoter in South Africa, he crossed the borders and he went to Namibia, where he teamed up with Nesta, and they promoted world title fights in Namibia. And he would invite me, to go with him to Namibia. And at some point, I think it was in 2005, where he said he wanted to go and link up with his former U.S. promoter, Duncan Cameron, in the U.S. And coincidentally, at the time, there was a fight between Bernard Hopkins and Jermaine Taylor. So him and I went over to Las Vegas to meet with the guys that he used to work with when he was still boxing. So there was this arrangement that Dingaan would represent them in Africa, and he would take boxers from Africa to. That's why even today, you see a number of Namibian boxers fighting at an international stage. That's because of him.
And of course, we know that his health took a bit of a turn towards the end of his life, and he was battling with illness. Did you see him in recent times, and was he still in good spirits then, as you know, he continued with his life even after boxing?
Yeah, we met, I think it was about 2 or so months ago, but I didn't notice anything because he's always a jubilant person. And even when we met, he was still talking about developing boxing. We were actually planning to have a podcast exclusively on boxing. And we'll talk on a number of days. But in the last week or so, I could try him on his phone, and his phone was off. It was only, I think, a day before yesterday when I spoke to Bongan Magasela, because Bongan Magasela called me to ask if I've seen Dingaan. And I told him no, and he complained that his phone was off. But I was busy at the time. Up until then, he called me last night to give me the news.
And since hearing the news, have you had a chance to reach out to the family? How have they taken it, and how are they doing then on the back of his passing?
No. I haven't heard. I mean, since it's still in the morning now, but I know that they're not well. I know that Bombi and Junior are not taking lightly. I know that Junior was very close to his father, and Tombe as well. But we'll try and meet with them, or try and reach out as soon as it's possible.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And again, sincere condolences on the loss of a great boxing legend and icon in South Africa and across the world.